Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports, our weekend edition, which is a Saturday sports special. And on today's program, we have what I would say a usual guest in a sense, because our guest is Mr. Ray Roberts, a noted Grenadian sports commentator, sports columnist. And Ray will join us momentarily to discuss a number of issues in sports, and particularly in Grenada. Ray has been doing some commentaries over the past few weeks, some quite interesting commentaries, and no doubt he will be with us to talk about some of those things that he has been sharing. Some serious concerns, I would say. Okay, yeah, quite a bit has been happening over the past few weeks, indeed. Not least is the that there is Windward Islands cricket taking place in Grenada, and that too we'll be talking about with Ray. And there is the upcoming. There is a budget consultation that deals specifically with sports, and that takes place on Monday, God's willing. So that's one. And then there is the reconsultation on the national sports policy. And that is getting in earnest, I should say, because it started in Karaku over about 2 weekends ago. But it will get in earnest from the different parishes, starting in St. John, I think, sometime in the week coming. And that too, we will want to, discuss a bit about, because the opportunity is here now for those who want to make an input into the national sports policy, because as we said, it's the reconsultation, because the policy has been there for over a decade, it's not been implemented. So obviously there's the need to sort of revamp, review, see how you can revitalize, that sports policy. So the idea is to bring it to the people, bring it to the various stakeholders, and hear their input from it, get their input, sorry, and hopefully the need now to implement the sports policy. So that we'll be speaking about. There is also, as I indicated, when Ray joins us, he will be speaking about, we want to talk a bit about his concerns, safety concerns in particular, about the erection of these concrete pillars on the periphery of these playing fields. It's a danger, and his concern is that, a tragedy in the making, as he will say. Okay, so that will be another issue. And then we want to say congratulations to Mr. Bernard Bunny Wilson, who is the new president of the Grenada Olympic Committee. And that too, as Ray will say, is an opportunity for the Grenada Olympic Committee to provide a new image, because it has been going through quite a while over the past 2 weeks in terms of controversies and scandals and what have you and things like that. So the hope is that Mr. Bunny Wilson, one of our first Olympians, and former boxer, will, according to Ray, will bring a new image to the Grenada Olympic Committee. So that too, we hoping to talk about. As regards to the cricket, as we said, the Windward Islands cricket being it's taking place in Grenada, and the weather played havoc with the first round of matches, especially with the Grenada game, and there's some concern about what should have been done in terms of the location of the matches, the venue of the matches, etc., etc. So let me give you so that the budget 2023 sports consultation will actually be on Monday at 6:00. Okay, so it takes place on Monday at 6 p.m. It's a budget 2023 budget sports consultation. Okay, so various segments of the economy, various sectors of the economy, sports is one, and there is a consultation taking place on Monday, October 3rd. Hey, by the way, welcome to October. When we say October, we actually, it's almost like the home run. It's towards the end of the year. Okay. Yeah, so that's something there that's taking place there. Then there some other things that are happening. Well, we I know the Grenada netball team preparing, or should be preparing, to participate in the World Qualifiers, and that's the AFNA Championships in Jamaica. Now, Jamaica and two other teams from the Americas will qualify. So, and obviously Jamaica, by virtue of their world rankings, Commonwealth Games, beaten finalists, etc., etc. So two other teams will join Jamaica to represent the Americas in the World Qualifiers. Now, whether Grenada will be in it is another thing to be considered. Okay. And then there is also one other thing I want to tell you regarding that is that Grenadian, and many of you probably will recall Ansel Langain, Grenadian Ansel Langain, or Grenada born Ansel Langain, is a member of the United States team, netball team, I should say, that will participate in the qualifiers in Jamaica. In fact, Ansel will be joined by her daughter, who is also on the US team. Okay. So I want to say congratulations to Ansel and her daughter for being selected on the United States netball team to represent the United States at the qualifiers in Jamaica. Okay, so Rudian is on, and as usual, Rudian will join me. We'll discuss. Ray will come on in a while. I know he's getting some things organized regarding, Ray is always busy in terms of, his beach is a must on a Saturday. He has to get to the beach on a Saturday. And then he has to get some logistics in terms of table tennis on a weekend, a lot of table tennis and things like that. And Ray is either table tennis, the lawn tennis, or the badminton, always. So he will be with us momentarily. Let me see if I can link up with my good friend Rudian and hear what's happening on his side. Rudian, good.
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm okay, and just by your clothing, I realize you're probably
Yeah, it's nice, but I decided just to step outside. It's a little bit not too bad. We are taking the last of the weather, so you gotta take it when you can.
so you're in the 50s as well, right?
Yeah, we up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we don't go by your numbers. I think we are about 19,
Okay,
which
well,
is
yeah,
roughly about the
yeah,
same thing. Yeah,
yeah, right. You go by the
yeah,
Grenada, the Caribbean
yeah,
numbers,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 19. Okay. So as I
Yeah,
was saying,
definitely.
I
Yeah.
I see. Coming from work this morning, I know we were in the 50s. Well, the upper 40s, but by now I
Upper
think
40s.
it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we're probably about 53 or something like that now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a nice day outside. It's not bad.
Okay, well, nice to hear that. So for Toronto is a nice day today. Um, we have in New York, we having the effects of Hurricane Ian. You
Uh,
know, and I'm certain you would have followed and see some of
Oh,
the
I,
videos
I,
and
I, I
photos.
I definitely have to. My sister is in Florida, so I have to
Well, yeah,
check out some updates
yeah.
and have some friends out there, and yeah.
Yeah,
So
I myself, I have two
so-
brothers in Tampa, and
okay,
then I have quite a few friends in Orlando and Fort Lauderdale and those places, and we are in touch during the time, and you know, I sorry for those who didn't take heed,
oh
especially those in Key West, and
yeah,
you'll always find those things, despite what they, even if they put the mandatory evacuation, you'll find people
vacation,
still,
yeah,
Yeah,
Well, they
still
thought they thought they was gonna miss them. That small town, they thought they was gonna go to Tampa, and it end up,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they choose not to, But the amount of water that is out
yeah,
there, I mean,
yeah.
it's hard. It's
and
hard.
and I think it's more and more a lesson for those. Not that is anything that's spiting, but for those to understand
It is. It is.
how those in the Caribbean states and those Pacific
Yep.
states have
Yep.
to endure when it comes to climate change and
Climate change.
those
Yeah.
hostile weather phenomena like
Yeah.
hurricanes and storms and things like
As I
that.
said, the
So
same thing about Canada. We haven't. Yeah, I mean, it's not here in Toronto, but the East haven't really get the brunt of nothing. They don't have a clue what the Caribbean have to go to and what others have to go through
yeah.
to get to that point. So I mean, definitely
Mhm.
they get a sense. It's just that the insurance is hammering them.
Yeah, yeah,
Insurance is what hammering them because they're never accustomed to that. In Florida, they're accustomed to that. So
yeah.
insurance is always prepared, but out here, the insurance will get caught by surprise on that one. So
Yeah, and we know how the weather and it's a nice thing to talk about too with the weather and how it affects even in the Caribbean because we know the way of life for a lot of the Caribbean people in terms of sports and sports basically amateur, okay,
yeah,
on an amateur level, and when you have these sort of weather patterns, like for example, having a cricket game in Grenada. I think it was in either one of the playing fields out in either in Lassages or in Progress Park. And because of rain, it basically washed out the game.
yeah,
Okay. We know that in other countries, yeah, you can have rain and you can have what you call a rain day, a rain date. So you can move the game to another day. Like, for example, baseball. If it rained out this
yeah,
evening, then they put it for tomorrow,
yeah, yeah,
these sort of things, the rain day. And then in some instances, they have facilities that can, and a typical example, for example, was in Tampa. There were plans to move the Tampa Buccaneers
yeah. They also to
from
play
Tampa,
Tampa. Yeah,
right, to move them out just in case, as a precaution. But then when things change, they say, "Oh no," and the match will be played, the game will be played this weekend, etc., etc.
Sunday.
But
Yeah,
all
and
these
it's a
logistics
big
are
game
in
too.
place, right?
Yeah,
All these logistics are in place so that they could have moved. They could have moved from probably Tampa to
to
Fort
another.
Lauderdale to another, city or whatever. That's the luxury they have.
Yeah,
In the
it's what.
Caribbean, we're not so lucky, yeah.
You're not. No, no, no. You're not. You're not. You don't have that luxury. Like out here,
Mhm.
same thing. A few years ago, we had a washout at our qualifying meet for championship, and we didn't have another day. The meet had to go on in the rain, and literally it was one of the worst. But we didn't have another day. Every other day was booked. So from now on, we always book 4 days, so we have the backup. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. That's the setback, I should say,
yeah.
for and most times when you have this sort of weather pattern, is the entire because of our size, the entire island is
The
affected.
whole place, the whole thing
Yeah,
is not one. It's
ex-
not one or the
yeah.
other. The whole place.
Probably except for places like Jamaica and the bigger
Yeah,
places
yeah.
like
Some
Jamaica,
places
I
it's
think. Yeah,
different, but
different. You could have a
most
lot
of the
of people.
time,
Right.
yeah,
Most
most
of
of
the
the time,
time, you have that sort of weather
yeah.
pattern, weather phenomena that can affect the entire island. And then it means that there's nothing else you can do, which brings us to a point where I think it came up in one of our programs some time ago where someone spoke about the need to have an indoor sporting facility, especially in light of the sort of conditions we have. By the way, I mean, not taking away anything from cricket and thing, because I don't think you could have an indoor in the Caribbean. You could have an indoor facility for playing of cricket, for example, and probably football. Well, football, you can play football in the rain, except it's reached a stage where the field is waterlogged, and
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah.
And most of those facilities in the Caribbean, in terms of stadium, in terms of the seating, it's covered seating, right?
Yeah, some of them
And
call Copper City.
yeah,
Yeah,
and players don't mind playing in the rain and things like that. So right, but when it comes to things like basketball, netball, these sort of sports,
But then
volleyball,
you come and you ask, are you changing? Are you going to look to start changing the court now to make it wooden courts
well,
or
no,
keeping
it's
it at
well,
concrete?
you see, the thing about it is that the, it, and here is the comparison. It's like our guys have been training, competing on grass, and then when you leave your shores and you go to compete in regional international competitions,
Yeah,
you're competing on the synthetic track,
to the track.
right?
Yeah.
So that is the sort of comparison. It's like netball and basketball and volleyball. When you play in those sports out of Grenada, for example, you're playing in those
Concrete.
indoor, what you call the gymnasium, right? You're playing in indoor facilities, which is the sort of structure
Yeah,
and things like
yeah.
that, right? So is also getting them prepared, that's one, but it's also moving it to a next level in that you have the ability to host, because there's no way you will be able to host a regional international tournament on facilities like these in this day and age now, right?
No, you can't. Yeah.
You may probably netball to an extent, but the associations and thing, the foreign associations will reconsider, the who they send in, whether it's development netballers, etc., because they certainly would want the elite netballers to play on, concrete, this
Concrete.
sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So all these things that you have to look at in terms of what you do. Likewise, there's no way you could have a track and field meet and you have professional athletes coming to run on grass, and
They won't do
so
that no more.
right. So all these things that you have to look at in terms of whether or not, and the question again is, do you think Grenada is ready for an indoor sporting arena? I know one person who is very adamant about that we do is Mr. Naka Joseph, right? Okay, let me. Sister Gladys Roberts is saying here now that indoor is wooden for netball and better for the limbs and other sports. Well,
It is.
and
It
that's what
is.
we're talking about. So the whole issue of injury and all these sort of things would play a factor in terms of that. For example, volleyball. I mean, you can't do what you really want to do in a volleyball on the concrete.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
can't rush to get a ball to
yeah. You can. Yeah.
no, you can't do
You
that.
have to do it. You have that had to be done on the wooden floors.
The wooden
Yeah,
flows, yeah.
had to be done. And
And,
even then they still had pads on. Even then they still had pads on.
right, they do. No, and
Still.
another thing, I know Trinidad has the indoor cycling, the velodrome.
Mm-hmm.
My good friend Mike McQuilkin has always been calling for a cycling track, and I've been with this argument with Mike. I said, Mike, in this day and age, your cycling track has to be an indoor track. It can't be the concrete velodrome like what Jamaica has. They don't even use it, right? They don't use it. You don't cycle on concrete tracks again. You see the sort of speed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
look, when you
you
go
see
as
the
far
sort
as
of speed now.
bobsled, if you decide to have a bobsled team, you think you can have a 4-man going down a hill. You need to
Yeah,
be somewhere that is,
right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was making the point to Mike that cycling velodrome now is not outdoor but indoor,
indoors. Yeah,
because look at the speed. Look at the Commonwealth Games, for example,
yeah.
you're looking at, and how many crashes they had, and I mean, even on the wooden floors, there were injuries.
There's
Could
still
you
injuries.
imagine?
There still can
Yeah,
be
could you
injuries. Yeah,
imagine with the
there still will
concrete?
be injuries. Yeah,
Yeah, could you imagine with the concrete what will happen? because that sort of speed they're traveling with there, you don't do that on a, on a the concrete structure. They used to before, and even those who had it, they have abandoned it.
Yeah.
Because even for Jamaica, for example, if you look at the national stadium, there's actually a cycling track around it,
Cycling track. Yeah,
and
there
they
is.
basically use that for, depending on what it is, for folks to sit on, the media, photographers, etc. They do not use that. In this day and age, a velodrome is an indoor facility. And indoor in the context, it will be basically the only, it's a standalone, eh? How it's structured is basically a standalone.
Standalone,
Because
yeah.
you have that, and then inside there you have all this with the cyclists
But
and
the big question is, do we have a location?
Well,
Talk
that's
about in Grenada.
yeah. Well, listen,
And because if we have a location, then we figure what we want to do with that location, right? Can we put netball only, or netball and basketball? Do we
well,
put stands? Like, how do you do it, right? Yeah.
well, if you have an indoor facility, an indoor gymnasium, for example, that can facilitate basketball, netball, some of the indoor, for example, don't you know that we have a indoor squash court, an indoor?
Indoor squash, yeah.
Yeah, we do have it in Grenada. We have it
Yeah.
next to the stadium, right? But it was never really used. The Chinese built it along with the stadium. I don't think it was ever used. I remember touring it, all sorts of things. Indoor squash, yeah, the squash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one. But these sporting associations just need to come together. Basketball, netball, volleyball, they can speak in one voice, because you can have that. In Barbados, for example, at the Wiley Gymnasium, that's where they play their netball, the indoor netball. They have basketball, they have volleyball, etc. Right? There's an indoor facility at this hotel in the Bahamas. You just escaped me there, but the Miami Heats, for example, they use it.
Yeah,
they use it for training, right? But at the same time, they also used it to host college basketball, because Bahamas
is college basketball
as another state of the US, and
yeah.
they use it for college basketball.
Even they go down and play football. Imagine that.
Right. Well, the American
there's a bowl, the Bahamas Bowl, right?
Bahamas
Bowl, something like that, right?
Yeah. NASA Bahamas Bowl in December.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
So yeah. So there's need, eh? The things up. The factors now are the associations should be speaking in one voice, and I'm talking about the affected associations: netball, basketball, volleyball. And you could play some. You can have other sports like probably badminton and all of that, because it's just a matter of having it marked out, properly. And they just need to speak with one voice. Your question, going back to your question about a suitable venue, that again is something that can be looked at. I know, for example, one of the major hold-up for the swimming facility over the years, because we have asked for a swimming facility, indoor swimming facility, Olympic size, whatever it is, for years. That had to do with the venue, the location. Where do you put it? And there were lots of suggestions and and touring of areas, etc., etc. And then they said, okay, they can put it here, but then they look at the long-term effect in terms of probably after 5 years, what can happen, these sort of things like that. So a lot of studies have to go. So likewise, you have to look at, like someone said at a time, that where the Olympic House is probably should have been, or the youth center in particular, when they built the youth center, the Olympic House is right there, but when they built the youth center, they were saying that should have been an indoor facility as well as the youth center, but it's just that you had the space
attach it onto it, yeah.
Right. had the space there for that, and I mean, even when it comes to parking and all these sort of things, you had the room there. But again, let's see. There is a budget consultation for sports on Monday.
Yeah.
There is also the um, consultation on sports for the national sports policy. So that's something probably folks like you and others can probably discuss during that time. The information will be made available for those in the diaspora to
Yeah.
participate. So that is something we can also look for. Glennis is saying we need to continue to advocate for the upgrade or to get a totally new facility to cover all. Well, that is so, but again, I'm saying it shouldn't be just netball or it shouldn't be just basketball. It should be all of them talking together and speaking the same language. Whether it's netball, basketball, volleyball come together. I mean, and I don't understand why it is. And by the way, I don't know if it had happened before, but at least if it had happened, we probably would have heard about it. But my thing is that someone from one of these associations should be bold enough to say, hey, let me contact the netball or the basketball or volleyball, whichever association, and let's just brainstorm something that we can put together as a proposal, speaking in one voice. That
I just feel that so after so many years, I mean, when we come to sports, it's a fight, it's a struggle, and on every level, and I don't know why. How can we? You want results, or you want the country name to grow? Like we talk about, if you talk about sports to anyone anywhere in the world concerning Grenada, all they know is track and field. That's all, because our name is out there. That's all. We know nothing else. Everything they know is track and field because of that. And for us to get out there and our name to get out there, we have to be, like you said, be bold in some things. We have to speak out for some things, and but how can it get done? It's just every time you talk about sports concerning Grenada with anything, it's a struggle, it's a fight, and nothing is being done. We're not the first who talk about a lot of these things. Many talk about it, and you've been speaking about it long before me and you start talking about it, and still nothing is done. We talk about 30 plus years of the same thing happening, or the same set of people in the same place, the same thing over and over and over again. And if it continue like that, then we're never going to get nowhere, and the name that we had in track and field will die out too. So now everyone say, what country? Like, I never heard this before. Because that also going to get die out soon. It's time for us to change that narrative and let our name speak marvelous things in sports, not only in track and field.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing about it. Is getting people to understand that sports and what sports can do, okay? And even at the level of government, understanding that what other countries like Jamaica and others and the sort of investment they have made in sports is because of where Jamaica is when it comes to sports. It's because of the investment they have made.
Yeah.
And sometimes we look at not as an investment sometimes, but it's just like we wasted money, or we just pouring money into something that there's no return, these sort of things. So we look at tourism, we look at agriculture, by the way, and they're important, but we look at these as the real deal. You understand? The real deal.
But I mean, you look at what builds. You look at two things I think that builds, really, in my opinion, that builds a country is sports. because sports couldn't build a nation, and sports can bring people together.
Well, yeah,
And that's the two
a
things. And that's the
uniting
two
factor.
things that we seriously have. We have.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. There are some teams for soccer that if it wasn't soccer, you never hear about them. Some countries, some small towns in England, you will never know they exist if it wasn't for them having a soccer team. And what is so the exposure that they're getting too, because soccer is worldwide, right? Especially dealing with the English league, right? So there's some places people never want to travel to, but they want to go because they hear that there is a good sports team out there, and a good a soccer player or a basketball player from this country. Look at the NBA. A lot of these guys in them is from other countries, and they building that, and they build that from that, and they get support from the countrymen. Not necessarily fun, not necessarily money, but they give them access to so that they can go in and build the youths through being in the NBA or the NFL or even soccer. The same thing we have to do here, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. Folks, so we should have Ray in just in a moment. While he gets some things, he's just alerted me that. As regards the consultation, now on Monday, that's the budget consultation on sports, 6 p.m. Budget. However, on the 29th of Saturday, October 29th, there is they call it the international consultation, but it's the consultation with the diaspora. And it's somewhere around 1 o'clock. Well, the time may change a bit because I think, no, we'll still be on the Eastern Standard Time.
On the same time.
Yeah.
Time
okay, the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's around 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, right. That is the reconsultation on the national sports policy on sports, national policy rather on sports and physical activity. So remember the date, Saturday, October 29th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. But we will confirm that time, and it also, the availability of personnel, especially those in Grenada and things like that. But the date is set as October 29, right? We're looking forward to that. So that is for that reconsultation on sports, and for those in the diaspora, to look forward to for your involvement. By way of information, there is a national consultation on, I think my dates may have been, I know there should have been one on the 6th of October in St. John. But based on what I have here in terms of the schedule, in St. Mark is October 11, St. Andrew, October 13. There's one with the Grenada Olympic Committee on October 15, which is a Saturday. National federations as well. Well, the Grenada Olympic Committee and also national federations. Yeah. And they have one in St. Patrick, one in St. David. And I think there's one in Karakou again, because the one in Karakou they had previously, they only dealt with the coaches, okay, the ministry staff and coaches and things. So they may go back to have one in Karakou. But within the month of October, a series of reconsultations on the national policy on sports and physical activity. Here is your opportunity to make an input. As I indicated, and as we know, the policy has been there for a number of years. It was passed more than 10 years ago. For lack of whatever, was not really implemented. And I still chide with those associations for not taking the bold move and pressing for the implementation. Yes. Because there were things, when you look at the policy, there were things in it that could have been implemented. Yeah. Even if it means, reviewing it after a period of time, reconfiguring, whatever it is like that. But there were, I keep saying, the low-hanging fruits that could have been implemented.
Could have been
But again,
implemented.
the weakness of these national associations, I say weakness, because some were a bit afraid. I will call
To
some of
speak
them and
out.
ask,
Yeah. Yeah.
why are you not saying anything? Why are you not speaking? Why are you not pushing for the sports policy, for the national sports policy to be implemented, whatever it is that to be implemented? And they were just mute. And to me, I will keep saying that during that period, I only know of two persons that were speaking of the sports policy in earnest and speaking about it publicly and boldly. Patrick Simmons and yours truly. Everyone else afraid. Even those
Yeah.
who really benefit, they were afraid.
Yeah.
And
Afraid.
yeah, and I keep saying that, when it comes to the whole development of sports and things, that there are a lot of folks out there, Rudy, and don't be fooled by them. They're not serious about sports development. They're in it
No,
just for the
they're not.
glory.
They're
Yeah,
not.
just for the glory. Just for
They're
the
just for the
glory.
glory.
Because
They're just in it for the glory.
yeah, when you look at the policy at the time, it was your constituents, the sportsmen and sportswomen you represented that were benefiting. And all you needed to do is to put pressure on the authorities, and I say put pressure in terms of appealing to them. You in the media every time. Say something about the policy, ask that the policy be implemented. There were a lot of issues over the years regarding our sportsmen and sportswomen, and the answers lied in the sports policy. Implement it. Look how much things what we're hearing about in the National Lottery Authority, etc. And basically, the Lottery Authority was set up to assist in the development of sports, culture, and they say nation building. But when you look at it, sports and culture in particular, and and tell me how sports was benefiting from that, except when somebody wants something, they go to the lottery, blah blah, and things like that. Look how much play we had from our athletes and things like that. So, and in return, they're hearing all sorts of things regarding the lottery and money, etc. And in some cases, they just need just a few dollars for assistance and funding for their programs and things like that. So, come on, we really have to do better. And I think a major problem for sports and sports movement and the development of sports in Grenada is our sports administrators. We need serious and committed sports administrators. We hear all the big talk, the flurry talk, and when they get there,
nothing.
It's just like
absolutely nothing.
So what you think, boy? What you
Just a position, just a job for them.
Just to say, beat my chest, and just to beat my chest and say, I'm here and I'm in charge. And no. We need serious sports administrators, committed sports administrators.
And we need to hold them accountable.
Well, I was about to say
holding them accountable.
It's
time to start holding them accountable.
And there lies the weakness too of these affiliates. Yeah. Okay, because you can't be going to meetings, attending meetings, and not willing to speak up. Listen,
not willing to speak up.
You have to speak up. Yes, you might be marginalized, you might be this, but you have to speak up, and you can't remain silent because if you
say
up,
something,
you wouldn't get to go somewhere, or you wouldn't get this position, or you wouldn't be the coach, or you come on, you can't. The manager, well, they call him the manager, but the coach of the England football team has been a big critic of even the FA, but it has nothing to do with his ability to coach because they're above that. Even though he has been a critic of the FA, he was selected as the coach of the England team. It has to do with his ability. Likewise, there are managers in the NFL, for example,
who does the same thing.
They criticize the NFL.
They have nothing to do with coaching. NBA does the same thing too. The NBA too.
But in Grenada, we have this thing where you have to nice up to this person, and because he's my friend, I can't criticize or I can. Hell no, man. If you have to say it, you have to say it. And on the other hand, the administrator has to be big enough and mature enough to accept criticism.
No, they do that in your job. You have to, like, you cannot be in a job and not be able to take criticism. Like, you have to, you cannot, you know. I don't know. It's like it's almost like which I was talking about Donald Trump. Nobody can tell him no. You always have to be like somebody. For me to hire you, you have to be a yes man. But
Mhm.
sometimes you need people that could tell you, no, that's not how it is. That's not how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, well, that's the problem,
Yeah.
we need folks who will be able to say it as it is, say it as it is, you know. You may not be popular, you may be branded troublemaker, but the fact is, at the end of the day,
Facts, the facts.
yeah, at the end of the day, you should be proud of what you are doing and what you have done, and your conscience should be clear, you know.
Or at least let people know what's going on,
Mhm.
because your views, might be different from others, and we may not see what you see, but let us know what's going on. You might be doing something based on a budget you have, but we don't know that. So when we say so many things towards you, let us know. Well, I can't make it because my budget is only this. So then we understand why you're doing something,
Mhm.
so we wouldn't bring down the name of that,
Yeah.
that job, right? So
Yeah, well, and it all to do with the whole issue about
transparency,
and accountability as well.
transparency.
Being
Yeah.
and being accountable and things like that. So you get into those things, and there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to provide a transparent, operation. Being accountable to the people that you claim you're representing, because listen, from since whenever I got into sports reporting back in '87, there, I have seen, I've heard, you know, all sorts of promises. I mean, some of them bigger than political promises when it comes to sports, right? When they get in there, they elected, and they plan to do this, and plan to represent them, blah blah blah, and things like that. So,
Talk, talk, talk,
yeah,
talk.
the big talk, because at that time that's the easiest thing for you to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand you're happy and they're happy for you too. And you say all these things. And then, 2 weeks after,
As
you,
you get in there, is a total
yeah,
different
it's a
story.
different thing. I mean, I have
And we
spoken,
can talk. There's so many people we can say that about. There's so many names we can call, not only in sports, but in a lot of other jobs.
yeah, well,
And
because
we can say the same thing about them.
I,
Same thing.
I recall doing an interview many years ago with an administrator, you know, just elected, talk to them, blah, 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 thing, all kind of this, that, and thing. Yeah. But about, I think it was a month or 2 months after I doing another interview, and I follow it up. And I pose in those similar questions, and
Same questions.
listen, and it was like, so what do you think this is? And the answer to me was like, so what you think it is? It's like politics, that's how you get in there, and I was like, really? And I mean, I was just a journalist, so I cannot vote. I,
Say, oh
I
yeah, yeah,
cannot
yeah,
tell
yeah,
you
yeah,
who to
yeah.
vote for. But the problem is that some of the people, or the affiliates, I should say, they still had confidence in the person in terms of going with the person, for another term again, And I'm saying, I thought it had to do a lot with your performance, and this sort of thing.
It's
And
who
it's
they
like,
like. It's who they like.
yeah,
They want
yeah, but when you
people who
speak,
is nice to them.
yeah, when you
If they're
speak to
nice to
them,
me, then I'll be nice to them. So if they
yeah,
say nice thing about me, then they back me up. Then I will keep keeping them around because they back
uh,
me up.
yeah, when you speak to them, they tell you where when this man is there, I get to go, I get to travel with the
Yeah,
team,
yeah,
I get
yeah.
to do this, I get to do that. I was like, really? So that is what you're there for? To be nice to the person. You will
Be
not
nice to
criticize
you.
them even if they deserve to be criticized. Because if you do criticize them, you will not get to go, or you
You
will
won't
not.
get to go places, and you wouldn't last after your term.
Come on, man. We don't. No. That's no place. That's no place for sports. You know, it's no place for sports. I mean, it's voluntary, But at the same time, I keep saying you must be committed with your volunteerism, right? And
Definitely, definitely.
yeah, and sports have evolved by leaps and bounds now. Whether it's track and field, whether it's football, whether it's netball, whatever, and you can still be comparing what it is now to what it was back in the 60s and
Back in
70s
the
and things
60s
like
and
that. So
70s.
yeah, you have to move with the times, right? And we can't be playing this, having this fun with sports. It's sort of sad. Okay. um
That's what it is. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Let me just give some final instructions there. Yeah. There's Rudy, and just before we link in with Ray now. We know that we enter now basically the off season for track and field, right? Off season in the context of you know people getting themselves ready for the new track and field season. So for some of them, the cross country participating, especially the colleges and things like that. No,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cross
yeah.
country and things like that. So, what as a coach you will advise some of our athletes, especially those not the elite, because obviously they may have their programs and things like that. So, but some of the athletes, let's say in Grenada, who have the potential, have plans, whatever it is, and bearing in mind the sort of season we do have in Grenada, which is a very short
Yeah.
season, a short window. Those in school, you just you remember you just your school sports, your inter-house sports,
Maybe one other sport, maybe
then
one other
inter-call,
competition.
yeah, depending on where you are, one
Yeah.
other sport. Where they have the Western game, they had the Eastern
Western
game,
Games. Yeah, yeah.
intercall, and then probably the Athletics Association may just have some development meets and things like that. So,
That's
but
about it.
nothing compared to some of the other islands where they have meets almost every weekend, especially in Jamaica and things like that. So the Grenadian athletes in Jamaica will be at an advantage because they may be competing every weekend, every other
Every
weekend.
week.
In fact,
Just like college. Yeah.
their
Every
first
week.
meet, someone sent me an invite to attend a meet in Jamaica, and it's in January. The first meet is in Jamaica. Yeah. So, what are some of the you know advice you will give them?
Well, it's preparation stage right now in terms of base training. So a lot of long stuff that you're doing, a lot of hills, a lot of long running, a lot of drills, even the weights, a lot of that now. Especially on the base training, a lot of beach workout. Um, for those who's home, get on those heels training, those kind of things in them is what you get into right now.
Mhm.
No different from what I'm doing with my athletes here. It's the exact same thing. Yesterday I had a workout on the beach. So that's exactly what we do. Just beach workout, working on it, the technical stuff, maybe sitting down with the coach, seeing what went wrong last year, seeing what needs to be fixed. And also in between, resting the body at the same time. Depends on the season you had, right? Um, make maybe turn it into a 3-day week training for now, and then you expand into 4 days because you also want the body to recover as well, right? Because you're doing a lot of harder work now. Now is this time when you do a lot of harder work right now. So you're talking about doing hills, probably full out, going up hills, maybe 3 or 4, and then the next week you probably add another 3 on it and so forth. So a lot of stuff is right now, but utilize the beach, utilize the hills that we have, and you have the option of getting up in the morning, depends on where you live, and going for a run on the beach, and then in the evening you could easily go and do another workout on the grass or so hills. So you have that option being in Grenada to do that, right?
Mhm.
um Everyone else don't have that option, but
And,
it's just base training.
and then you have the weather, right?
And then you have that, right?
Yeah.
Out here we don't have that. So, what I mean, we wake up, our bodies so accustomed by the 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock wake up.
Yeah,
It's just something
but
that
I'm saying
what's in us,
in the context of in North America,
Yeah,
at this time of the year, it's basically cold, right?
It
You
is,
get
yeah. What
to
weather changing? Start getting
yeah,
indoors, and
in
you don't want to go in indoors, but you kind
yeah.
of forced to go in inside now because of weather and so forth. So it's just really what it is. But I'm doing it, like I said, no different. I'm doing the same thing. A lot of, just base training, working on the technical stuff, a lot of drills. Because those are things you don't do in competition time. These are the things you do now. Long runs, some 500, 600s, those long runs, and then you start trickling down into getting closer to competition and so forth. Because once January come, that's it.
Mhm.
It just bam, 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 bam. Especially even international, those even going to compete indoors. Once January come, it's a bam, bam, bam. Let's get going, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's true. And by the way, it's not only and it's not only track and field, eh? It can
no,
be for other
everything.
yeah, for
Basketball
other
is doing the same thing. Um, because in the US, a lot of basketball guys is doing a lot of base work or no, a lot of running. You find them on the track. I mean, football is going on right now, but a lot of the other sports, you find a lot of them doing a lot of base training now. Speed, weights, speed, weights, long running, conditioning, and you're just trying to get yourself back up. Yeah.
yeah.
Also, you have to rest the body. You have to get your body back into eating properly again because you probably take a month off in the summer and decide to have some fun time, and that's good. You need that. I watch a lot of the international athletes. A lot of them is on vacation. The season done. Recently, they're on vacation now. Some of them I see they doing models and stuff like that. They just once they start back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The sad part about that, and I said sad in the context of um in places like Grenada and other places in the Caribbean, you don't have the luxury of
yeah.
having the services as a physio and all
And
because at this
and
time of
those
the
things.
year
Yeah,
too, you look for that sort of services and
yeah,
get yourself ready for when the season
yeah,
starts. So
yeah.
any injury you may have had that you need to
You
attend
have to
to
work
and
on that.
all
You
these
have to,
sort of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we don't have the sort of
And we don't have that, we really don't. I mean, if you happen to look at the recent football game, that is a big thing now with Tulu, from the Miami Dolphin. He got hit Sunday and he come back 4 days later, and I mean that could be a career-ending hit that he got, right?
yeah.
And but they have those doctors. I mean, it's that
Well,
The
they
NFL
have.
neurologist, the NFL neurologist doctor he's in London. That's where literally he's based out of London, England. So so you cannot watch all those things and say they have that. It's time for us to start having things like that home.
But
Injury, yeah,
even having medical officials
at events,
at
yeah.
sporting events,
Like
is
right
something.
now, I believe GFA should put mandatory someone has full CPR qualifications. I think, and they should always be at a game on both sides. I
Well,
think it shouldn't be a player. It
well,
shouldn't
no,
be a
yeah.
player.
Well, that's the thing about it.
That
No,
is my take, right?
no.
Yeah,
When they have international matches, friendlies, whatever, you will find they will have um they will have a doctor sometime, but they will
yeah. They
also
don't have
have
enough. Yeah, yeah,
the Red Cross, St. John's ambulance,
yeah, yeah.
these people that obviously trained
Yeah.
to do
But
those things.
we have to be
But
so careful,
but yeah, but
because
hold on. But
yeah,
what I want to say based on what you just said there is that what is also needed is that even with the other matches, the local matches,
the local
that they must
matches is
have
what I'm really talking
someone
about. Yeah,
who is trained
yeah.
and you made the point there, not a player that
Not a
when
player.
something happened, the player run onto the field and just
No.
spray the
Yeah,
ankle and spray.
yeah,
No, not
yeah.
that because that player doesn't know the nature of that injury or what
Of
it
that
what it
injury. Yeah,
so they
yeah,
just run on with that spray can and just spraying the ankle or spraying
yeah,
the shin or spray, and then run back off.
yeah.
This sort of thing might be
And they
just
don't know. They don't know how to make a splint. They
yeah.
don't know how to do
So
certain things,
right.
right?
So it
Those
must be
kind of things.
someone
Yeah,
who is trained and who understands.
yeah,
Okay, players going up and heading ball, getting a knock, falling down, and another player run on, to, wipe his head and, pick him up and these sort of things. No, we need trained personnel
You need train, and that's
to go
something that should
on,
be
make an
on
assessment, and
everything.
will be
Yeah,
able to tell the referee or the
yeah,
bench right away whether that player should be able to could continue or whatever it is like
or
that.
not. Yeah,
So yeah.
because I mean, our CPR course out here is 3 years. So imagine, you have this person on your team for 3 years, or they have that. Most jobs should has that, people with CPI, qualification on their workplace, and it's something that should be mandatory on the workplace, because anything can happen on your workplace, right? And then, some injuries. A nurse is a nurse for that particular thing. A nurse may not be a nurse for sports injury. So yes, or you can say, well, yeah, we have a nurse that doesn't mean anything. Okay, the nurse don't know the sport injury part of what's going on. So that's the difference in even some doctors. Some doctors don't know sudden, you cannot go to your family doctor about a sport injury. They don't know. That's not their field, right? So you need to start putting people in the field, and it's something I've been saying for a while. GFA should have, every local team or every GFA team should have somebody on the team who is CPR qualified and should be at every game when they are playing.
Well,
And it's not supposed to be a player; it should be
mhm.
and somebody from the outside.
Well, by extension, any competitive sport in Grenada,
Any
I would
sport.
say any
You go back
competitive,
to same
especially the contact,
any sport. Yeah,
especially the contact sports.
any contact sport. Yeah,
Yeah, basketball, football, volleyball, netball, the contact sports that
yeah.
they should have those people there. Let me um, put up a comment, although it's incomplete, but very important comment um, from Roger Augustine. Okay, and we do know Roger Augustine is the father of Shanti Augustine. He says, "Hey, Michael, my daughter is in Form 5 now, and it seems like every week I am hearing from her that the teachers have extra classes for the CXC students, including Saturdays from some 2 to 4 or 3 to 5 p.m., which, as you know, the athletes opportunities to train properly for the upcoming season. As a parent, you have to now make tough decisions on what classes your child should attend with the amount of SBA to be completed in short times, and they need to get deep sleep, 8 hours from staying up even after, well, yeah, so that's what I'm saying, incomplete. But sort of sad there. And that is Roger Augustine, the father of, as we know, Shanti Augustine, young sprinter in Grenada,
Well,
who we were hoping will really be shining this year after all the problems she have gone through with the teachers having the boycott at the time. Well, I'll just say boycott for now. Well, justify or not. Then came COVID, etc. And it's sad that she's now in Form 5, and probably her real time to really show what she has, even though she was by the way, at the Character Games in Jamaica. Um, and now here is another problem there, as Roger.
well, well. It's not a problem. It's something that you could work on.
Well,
Have
it's
a
a
conversation.
challenge for
Have,
the parents,
yeah,
especially
but
him.
have a
Yeah.
conversation with the teacher.
Mhm.
And then you
Well,
look at priority. Then you look at your priority. What's more important?
mhm.
Do she have the ability to do stay home, SBA, do all the subjects and so forth, or do she have the opportunity to go on scholarship where a part of it don't count if you want to go to the US? It is mainly
No, no,
you
no.
make sure
But
that you get the
yeah, but you
SAT.
can't.
But I understand,
But
like I said,
SBA
yeah,
is important for the students at
yeah,
that
yeah.
level.
But I'm saying
So
have
there's
a
no
conversation
option.
with the teacher. Make it once every 2 weeks. She can go. Like you make decisions based on the importance. So sometimes it's not that hard. Just it's all about having a conversation with the person in charge, and they might be just as understanding as you are, because they saw the future in her too, and they understand it. So they probably something they're willing to do, right? So
But I assume that there might not be any. Well, again, I could only assume from this area
yeah,
here, from this decide, But whether or not any special arrangement just for Shanti, or whether it's Shanti and others,
And
and things
others.
like
Yeah.
that. But that is something that is, quite challenging for as a parent, because I know in the context in which he's speaking about, and might be a bit frustrated in terms of that. And I wish he probably can get some more information regarding what alternatives are there, what options are there,
Good options.
whether
Yeah.
or not he has, spoken to, the teachers, etc.
Yeah. Because there might be
Before,
somewhere where
yeah,
who somebody might be do a private class with her, so she get
yeah.
private, right?
There are some other comments on that there that's coming up, but let me just go back to one that Glennis had said earlier. Agreed to that recommendation, with physio in the games. It begs of us to channel some of our medical scholarships to get a few doctor focus on sports. Yeah, sports medicine, sports, whatever it is, like that. In regard to Roger Augustine's comment, she is saying that it's doable, right? Get extra lessons,
Yeah.
right, is one of it. Get extra lessons.
Go private.
Right. The
One
teacher has to
on one,
teach a
right?
syllabus during school time. And Joel Phillip is saying there should be a structure and a schedule that student athletes should be on, so they are able to fit all their activities during the day. Coaches need to know this as well. Everything is on a schedule. Yeah. So again,
Yeah, yes
I
and no on
understand.
that comment. Yes and no on that comment, because we are not in Jamaica, where you see the Jamaican schedule. You have to look at how Grenada's schedule kind of set up too, right? We just talk about they probably have just 4 meets for the whole year, based on they may have 1 or 2 more, right? Give or take. But in a place like Jamaica, they might have 20 meets that they can choose from,
Yeah,
which kind of put them in a different. You guess what I'm saying? So
but the point Joel is saying
yeah,
is a structure. Once you get a structure in place, once you have a structure in place,
mm-hmm.
And structure is important now in the context of we are getting those athletes to the next stage. So we have to put structure in place, because Shantae today, there may be others tomorrow. So once we have a structure, it means therefore that the lessons of Shantae will not be repeated with the others. So that structure means that we have something now that if you're a student athlete, and I think you're referring specifically to the, consider her as a student athlete, okay? It's no different than student athletes in college right now, okay? Okay, so Roger is back. I was just informing the public that the way in which our academic is set up at the school makes it extremely difficult for them to succeed with academics and sports simultaneously. That's the point. So that is
that's the
why
point. And
Joel
I'm going
Phillip
back,
is saying about the
and
structure.
but I go back again, is the level of sports. So our level of sports is not to the level where you put in sports over academics. You guess I'm saying? It's our level of sporting that we have in Grenada. If our level was as a how Jamaica, I'm using Jamaica as an example, how their sporting system set up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But the athletes and academics have the balance. We see we don't have that level in Grenada. We don't have that. And then yes, Jamaica is bigger, so things can more happen, right? But it's also at the same time, we have to also get our athletes at a certain level and put the program for them at a certain level, which is what we don't really have right now. We don't have that level, so it is becoming a challenge for them, especially for a parent as well as an athlete. Or then how many athletes in that school? How many athletes is in the same position, right?
So there is no yes and no on this from Joel Phillip. There needs to be structure, period. Our coaches need to know what is going on with our class schedule and plan accordingly. Yeah. Let me see if I can get Ray. I'm getting a video, but well, I'm not actually seeing my friend.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Just give me a minute.
I'm not seeing my friend Ray as yet. Ray, are you there? Are you hearing me?
Yes, Mike. I seem to have a problem with the picture coming up on that computer, but on my cell, it's okay. On my cell.
So you want to try it from your mobile?
I think that may be a better bet.
Okay then. So I'll wait on you. We have time.
All right.
I'll wait on you. Yeah. Okay then. So Ray will come back with me from his mobile. Audio is very good, I can say, very, very good. I think it's just his camera. But we really want to hear from Ray. We'll go with Ray. Some very interesting comments from Ray. And once he gets his thing up, we'll go with Ray. Yeah. And Rudian, wow, Rudian has a nice, let me just give his backdrop there. That's Toronto, folks. That's Toronto you're looking at in the backdrop there, with Rudian. As he says, nice weather today. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So let's let me go back to that comment there from Joel Phillip. So there's no yes and no on this. There needs to be a structure period. Our coaches, it says our coaches need to know what is going on with a class schedule and plan accordingly. So, Joel, I think, as you're saying, what is needed is structure. We just need a structure. And once we have a structure, then everything should be in place. And we have to understand that we are now producing, the student athletes. And not to say we didn't have them before, but we have to evolve. Things are evolving, and we need to move with time. And we need to have structure in place where they can coexist, student athletes. Okay? We can't say, okay, oh yes, she's an athlete, but her academics have priority. There's the balance. Because when they go to college, it's the same structure they go into with the balance. And Joel is speaking from a point where he can speak, he can speak because of his position. That is what he's doing. Okay? So, folks, if you need assistance in Grenada, there's a Joel Phillip who can probably assist you in putting a structure in place for that. And by the way, Joel, don't forget we have a consultation. By the way, there is one consultation on Monday that deals with the sports regarding the budget. That's Monday evening, 6 o'clock. And then there is also the re-consultation on the national policy on sports and physical education activity. That will be on Saturday, October 29, from 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And all of you in this diaspora, there's an opportunity for you to make an input. That one on Saturday, October 29, is for the folks in the diaspora. You will get the information, and it will be a time where you can make your contribution, make your input into that. So, Rudian, as I was saying, we have to look at giving these athletes that opportunity, the student athletes in particular, to coexist. We have to.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think you're not far from what Joel is saying, but we need the structure.
No, we need a structure. We need something that, because we, like I said, we always want our athletes to do so well when they get the little opportunity that they get. When they get a small opportunity, and we want them to do well, but we don't have nothing in place for them. We have nothing in place for them to do well. We have no support for them, but we want them to do well. So once we can get this together, once we put things in place, I think it can be a better future for them. But that's really what it is. They have to get things in place, and that's the one thing. There is no structure for our student athletes, because they are the future. There is no structure for them, but then we want them to go out in the world and do good. So yeah.
All right. Let's see. I think Ray's still having some problem, but as I said, his audio is fantastic. Ray, are you there?
Yeah. Yes. Hello?
Okay. Yeah, Ray, I'm here. I think I was hearing you a while ago. You there, right?
Yes, I'm there.
Right. We'll see what we can do with that, but I think what is more important is what you have to say. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, what you have to say. And as I indicated for the program, there a couple of concerns. Well, concerns you have, as well as points of interest and things that we can develop on. including that, first of all, as we said, Ray, and I think the last time we spoke, you had to be on the program. You could not be on the program because that was the same weekend that the Grenada Table Tennis Association was hosting that table tennis development program, right? And from the photos and videos I've seen, it appears that it was well attended and it was a success. Would you agree, Ray?
Undoubtedly, it's a small sport, but there are quite a few people playing, and the challenge always is to keep them in the sport. You get more incentives in football, so the young ones are attracted after a while to go across the football. But many of our good players are themselves. I mean, there's a fella called Ronaldo Smith. He was first on the 13 champion. Now he's a football, one of the better under 20 players. I could call several of them for you who are in table tennis. And, there's another one, VJ. VJ was an exciting young player. Still, he's about 17 now. But we don't have the opportunities that he will get in football. So we are losing, quite a number of these young people because of opportunities.
Yeah.
And then it's a small sport, doesn't have the profile.
Well, yeah, I could have. Well, that's true, Ray. But at the same time, Ray, we notice that folks who are involved, there are few people, including yourself, who are involved in table tennis, and not just table tennis, tennis, badminton, etc., etc.
Well, you are correct, and I would want to just add something to what you and your colleague Rudan were chatting about, and that's the sports policy. What I will tell you and Rudan that as far as I was in St. David's yesterday watching cricket, and that too came up for discussion. 99% of the sports people and the administrators, they might have seen the document or heard of it, but the reality is the vast majority of people who I'm around on a daily basis, who are really sports people, avid sports people, they have not really seen the document. The people who write the document, I call it the 3 or 4 bright people, they don't champion it. So it has become a document that you have promoted, and Patrick and who else. But really and truly, I mean, this morning in Tantina, I was observing Lester Smith. He had about, I would say, 50, 60, even more young people. I mean, the parents and the coaches who were there, I mean, their thing was on getting some young guys to develop skills and capacity. I have gone to meetings of, I would say, of most of the national federations, AGMs, and sometimes I do elections. I have never heard this thing come up. And I asked the question, who are the authors of this thing? Because I'm the president of Paralympics. I mean, I don't know. I saw a paragraph, which makes very little sense, actually. So really and truly, I listened to the argument on sports policy. But really and truly, that is not in the I would say, in the forefront of people's mind. And then you have a second problem with these documentations. Several of the sports in Grenada, particularly the smaller sports, the people who become president and hold top officials, they are there because the children, a man's son may be a good swimmer, a good tennis player, or whatever it is. And he comes to pick him up, he begins to show interest, and people say, let's make him president. And he didn't come for president. He did not come for president. He came because his son was doing well.
Yeah.
I don't want to call names, but
he's hanging out. He's hanging out.
Yeah, I know of a particular person, and I wouldn't say whether it's male or female. The young man did exceptionally well, and person got elected as a vice president. I'm not too sure that after that election, and the son migrated to the US, that person never went back to a meeting. I know of another person again, who's a good friend of mine, and Bascom, you may speculate very well too. I mean, was involved in the sport. Yeah. And as she said, she didn't go for it. She go for the, her grandson was there, and that interest was there. So that's what I'm saying, that we got to be careful when we're talking about these things. People have to be schooled in it. It has to be part of the Ministry of Sports coaches. And I'm not too sure that even they themselves are aware of what is written there. And it has to be part of the TAM CCC physical education class.
Well, yeah.
So these people take it because they are nurtured into it, and they go out as part of their activity. But just to be saying this thing, how many pages? One man said yesterday, and the people in the discussion were some of the top people in Grenada sports. I'm not going to call their names, but the top people in sports in Grenada. It was a small gathering. And they were saying, which administrator could sit down to read 20-something pages, have your family, and you're already helping in sports? So we have to see this thing beyond just, people are not interested. First of all, are these people who are we making leaders, are they really interested in sports to the point of, they want to be knowledgeable on the IOC, the federation, or even the sport at a domestic level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's well, the messaging. I think the messaging is very important. And as you say, the whole aspect of the TMR should come to college, and getting that inculcated into the minds. But Ray, I still think the sports administrators owe it to themselves as well, to be knowledgeable about what's happening. Okay, but I take your point and agree, and there's an opportunity for Monday for the budget consultation on sports, and then the various consultations. And I think what you say in the Ray makes sense, and probably people can air their concerns these days. Whether it's social media in particular. Provides the opportunity for people to share their concerns more than when it was just a face-to-face experience, And I will hope that people will use whatever means it's necessary to share their concerns. And like you, Ray, you have been using social media very effectively to share your concerns. And that's why we have you on the program, because you have been sharing some concerns, and I will go with some of them. One has to do with the issue of the your concerns, and it has to do with safety concerns regarding the concrete pillars for the lighting of the playing field in the limes. That is one of the commentary I came across, Ray, that I thought, and coming to think about it, at first you will just think, oh, it's lighting and development, etc. But I think when the points you raise, when coming to think about it, it's very, very important. It's very serious, regarding the concrete pillars in the periphery of those playing fields.
Mike, I'll just share a story with you about Cameron Park. We've been championing not just to save the park, but health and safety. And I pray God that the young kid and his parents have gotten the best medical care. Well, kids, because I notice you on your Facebook, not Facebook, your WhatsApp, there's a nice little kid who seems to be about 3 or 4 years.
My granddaughter.
Good, congratulations.
Thanks.
Junior ain't bringing it. Right. Well, that little kid was in the park on this swing, and whatever happened, his testicles got between that. And you, a human being, so you know what happens there. From what I heard, I wasn't present because I came late. I was told by people who were fathers like me, it was a painful experience, and it's something that should have never happened, because Jude Bernard in particular was advocating that you put tape around there or you fix it, or something should be done that kids should not go there. And my friend, that little kid, I would say about 2 months ago, a little more, we don't know what the health reality is. But I'm saying those are the things that didn't make the news. It just happened that 2 or 3 people were there,
Right.
and those of us in the park got to know about it. So I'm saying that's the carelessness, and that's what perhaps the sports policy. That's what I'm telling you. Nobody's reading this because when I went to the line, I pick up people who actually were not involved in sports and just had a little passion for sports when Lewis was good and Junior Murray and now Fletcher. And the first thing they asked, who are these crazy people that are charged to do a professional job? Because you have seen sports. You from Queen's Park, and you know what Queen's Park used to be in sports. In an aggressive tackle, an aggressive display, sprinter or whatever it is, you could end up on the pole,
Oh,
not
yeah.
because you deliberately want to, but the enthusiasm in you, the adrenaline is flowing. And those are things that I believe we have to think about. And I'm not too sure. I noticed the light in Springs too. The lights are, like Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell said, it's like a Christmas tree. We just lighting playing fields without seemingly doing proper analysis.
Analysis. Yeah, well, and folks, dare you, if you want to understand the context in what Ray is speaking about, you can go on to his Facebook page. Let me give Ray a plug there. You can go on his Facebook page and look at some of his commentaries, and that one has to do with the placement of concrete pillars for the lighting of the Lions playing field lacks creativity. And it's outlined, and as you were saying, the whole issue of the football. He used football as an example, and as well as the health hazard rate, because you're saying the padding of the concrete bases for the light pole does not make them any safer,
Not at all.
And as you indicated, we do have in football, we have the aggressive players, and looking for a goal, battling to defend, whatever it is, unintentionally running to one of the concrete posts, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. Certainly,
And
And
I add to it, it's poor people, children who generally cannot afford to pay bills go through this thing. It's poor people, children. So
It's so true.
your coach is there with you, and I suppose he's a professional coach. The surrounding in which that boy or girl is engaged in, that must be of paramount importance. It's not just the kid want to play, but you have to see is that environment an environment you can turn your back for a moment and feel safe that this young 10-year-old, 15-year-old, is safe. And that is these are some of the things that bothers me about sports these days, that we don't seem to have a lot of concern about the other side of it. The entertainment side is okay, but the health and safety side, I'm not sure we bother too much about it. Or maybe we're not concerned yet.
yeah.
If I could add on to that, Ray,
Yeah.
sorry. The health and safety part is very important. And it's something, yes, I'm out here in Canada and bigger country, everything is bigger. But it's a big part. They take that very serious, health and safety, not only in sports, but in the workplace. And it's all over. And it's a key thing, right? That's what I was saying earlier on. Looking at CPR, most businesses, the banks, and all those places should have somebody in there, or even all the staff who is physically qualified to do CPR in case of a situation. So truly, that's health and safety part for me is very important in structuring any business or any sporting, especially sports in Grenada. Health and safety is a key thing.
Okay. Ray, your good friend, Sister Glennis Roberts, is asking that with this hazard being identified, what can we do to minimize the dangers that may be ahead?
Easy. I recommend that you remove the pole. Listen, if there were thoughtful people there, Grenada has about 4 poles above the road. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a specialist in anything. I'm a lay person. To me, I brought a couple of people there, and even before I suggested that idea that the pole be put above the road, use the whatever concrete it is to stabilize it. Everybody who came said the same thing. There was no need for the two poles that are on the field and closest to the main road. It could have been along the main road, and as you say, you could case them or whatever. But on the field, I mean, let me tell you this, Michael. The School for Special Education is there. So you have people who are physically challenged. And some of them are, I don't want to say, I think some of them are not as athletic as I am. Some of them are less. Then you have primary schools who have sports there. So it's not a playing field that is used by two or three, after work pleasure seekers. It's a school where Grenada School is next door to it. Cali School is a little lower down. Then you have pre-primary schools around there. So, we have to think about these things. Because again, as I tell you, at the end of it, it is poor people, children that are going to end up in that mess. And I think there's a story I saw on GBN this week. And I felt so sad about this lady in Birch Grove with a child that passed common entrance and trying to get help. The child is now bedridden and doesn't look like will be rehabilitated to the point where she can be, extremely active in life. Now, again, as I say, and she said she check everybody, ministers, religion, it's poor people. If she had money, she'd have jumped on a plane and go. So those are the things that I say, people. There are sports in Grenada. It's just not, yes, there's a look, this thing that we start in Monday must come, that's chaos. Everybody go talk about budget for sport. Do we understand how the treasury work? The treasury don't make any money. There has to be an income
generated,
generated income. Business. So that is the point. So it might have been better to get minds who understand this thing, sell it to them, and hopefully bring them together. So some economists could have us understand that this economy is not. I saw the one on football. This is the craziest thing I've heard. Paying national players. I mean, some people make the national team because by default. By default, it's not that they're good. It's just that others weren't available. In fact, I was sharing them with the guys yesterday that Litima and Papi Tet and them gave me a joke about their era in the 40s and early 50s. The boat was on the Carnage and they had 8 players. And the next thing is pay away. So if you could pay away, you're on the team. It's not
so the folks who show up and could pay, they're on the team.
That's correct, because 8 or 7 people, they come from families who can afford it. But there are others who can't afford it. So you show up and you to another man say, well, I'll go pay for he. So we have to be careful when we're saying things like that, because then you're going to have a lot of cricketers, a lot of netballers, a lot of volleyballers, and you may be creating an idle group who know that a 2 pence is coming from the state for national players. So you don't have to work. So to me, what would be better is to do what Roy St. John did when I started to work in the 70s. The best players, the Bombo Nelson, the Ali D. Bellet and them, they were the players. They found job for these fellas, Bug Belfon and them. I remember Bug used to be with Mr. Lai. Mr. Lai was Huggins engineer coming down at Marketville. So you're familiar with Marketville. And these fellas were among mature people. So their sporting talent and their way of life was being guided by mentors. But to give a fella say he's a national player in working, I mean, that's craziness. I mean, it's total craziness. I know some people will say, well, where you come from the old time days, you don't understand. But how do you mean I understand? I play with young people every day. In fact, sometimes I'm so I beg them. They say, Ray, Mr. Ray, my grandfather say he played with you. I say, oh God, don't say that. Because you talk about your grandfather, so that means the father had children, and the children had children, and I still play. No, so I think we need to sometimes not get carried away with things. We need to think about it and sort it out, maybe with a group of people that could give it strength. But you go out there in that budget. I mean, you imagine Tom, Dick, and Harry coming. I'm not saying it's bad. All I'm saying, there has to be a proper structure. I haven't heard a structure. And yesterday, that was the talk in St. David's, St. Vincent versus St. Lucia playing. and the likes of myself and others were there. I mean, I won't call the athlete's name, but one of the top sportsmen in Grenada said, "You remember going abroad?" And he had 100 US. And the athlete who he was with, I will tell you the athlete because you know him, Shane Charles. He said Shane was a quarter mile.
Yeah, Shane, yes.
Right. He said, "Ray, I had 100 US." Shane come the next day because they were on training. And Shane said to him, "Coach, I want to go on that tour, the Barbadians organized for athletes." He said, "How much is it?" 20 US. So he give him 20 US out of the 100 US. 80 remain. See, the next morning they go on train. The coach says his shoes bust. So he has 80 US to find a shoe. But he was lucky. There was a friend who came around and said, "Man, you need a shoe." And that's it. And I'm not talking about 20 years ago. So we need to begin to give things thought and not bring crowd together and take Facebook picture and take 2 song bites. And it looks good, but because that's what it's going to be. 2 song bites and it sounds good and some lovely picture, a massive crowd turn up. And we have to do better than that. We have to begin not to be carried away.
Ray, I'm wondering, Ray, if you're sure your camera is not locked. I know somebody.
I would like to believe that, because this is the 3rd program I'm on with somebody.
Yeah, I think I'm getting the impression that there is a thing that you need to pull across so that your camera could be full, because I'm seeing some things in the background slightly, and it shows that probably a camera is covered or something like that.
I believe so.
While you do that, Sister Roberts is saying, so Ray, get our parliamentary representative on board, do a community forum with the experts, and let's try to fix it before disaster, before, as you say, a poor child is injured, right? So that's from your good friend, Glennis, right?
Mr. Glennis Roberts.
Yeah. All right. Ray, on to our next issue. It has to do with the Grenada Olympic Committee.
Good.
And and as you rightly said, with Bonnie Wilson now as the elected president of the Grenada Olympic Committee, you consider it as an opportunity to improve the image of the Grenada Olympic Committee, and you say it in the context of all that has been happening, and playing out in the media in particular, over the past few months regarding the Grenada Olympic Committee, and probably an opportunity for Bonnie to really improve that image, because as you know, when you speak about the Grenada Olympic Committee in public, it's not a good reception you get from folks, and especially folks who know about sports and who understand, right?
Yes. Well, Mike, I think the first thing we have to get right is that the sports associations themselves, I think somebody mentioned it a while ago, most of the sports are not very seriously represented. People come to meeting. If you look, I would say apart from myself and Vida, the majority of people who come there, they either come for a year or 2. Well, Dr. Noel, Dr. Jean Noel, just a few people have been consistently participating. So you find a meeting with call, you're represented, you have 16 affiliates, so you may have the majority of us there. But the talking is between about 4 or 5 persons. Then the next meeting is called, maybe the same group, and a subsequent meeting and a new group. So really, it all starts, and let me put it point blank. Most of the affiliates come for, I'm going to use the word like they use it now, a money. No, they come for money. I mean, I'm telling you, because sometimes you ask yourself, and I ask myself that question, is it really worth the while to be going to these meetings? Because, I mean, quite frankly, you're beginning to get disappointed that we're not there for seriousness. The many times these 3 or 4 world-class athletes we have, and God forbid, we will have others that would supersede them. But to me, we just on a ride. Because look, I think you noted an article I wrote some time ago. Kirani in 2012 did what no other Grenadian did. But yesterday we were talking. There is no period throughout the year when we make this a focus to young athletes who are not born and are now 10 years since Kirani achieved this thing. Stressing to them, here is somebody from a tiny village, from humble family, could do something like that. Or even Coach Paul, a humble beginning, a humble family, who can be that outstanding to be on the world stage. We're not using the exploits that we have earned. I notice you said that we have earned to create that awareness to subsequent generations that we can do big things even though we're small. So that is my fear about the Olympic Committee, that we are embroiled in, yes, I would want to see transparency. I think it's perhaps top of the list. But my greatest fear is that, I mean, you doing programs, I don't know if anybody come on your program to talk about it, but I've never heard anything about going forward. How do we unearth people from the back of well, some part of Grenada? But to me, that's what is troubling. Unless we begin to get these things right, I think, we were talking about cricket yesterday, and you look at St. Lucia, and everybody is saying, although St. Lucia lost, they look like a team for the future. They look like a team for the future. The comparison with Grenada and everybody, in fact, we just hosted the West Indies youth tournament 6 weeks ago. We had one player. He played on 1 or 2 matches. He ain't batting in both. So was it a pick for complimentary hosting at the tournament, or was it a tokenism? I don't know. So I'm saying we hosted the training camp. We were the host of that training camp. So somebody tell me COVID. COVID, I mean, come on. I play tennis with a friend. We had our thing during COVID. We didn't gather. Played with we got together. We never touched each other. He had one eye and I had one end. Cricket, I know you're bowling from 22 yards. So I don't know how, somebody in the back of the yard practicing a ball with his brother, his sister. I don't know. I just find what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, I still ask the question. The Olympic Committee is more than just traveling and more than just having a good time for a few people. It has to be something that champions, the same thing you and Ruden were speaking about, the sports policy. We won't have one as America and Canada or even Jamaica, but we could be the one that enlightens other nations that are the size of Grenada. But I'm not seeing those things. And I don't know, I hope Bunny is up to it, because I'll tell you straight out, about 12 months, 10 months ago, he told me he was retiring from everything. He did retire from his job, as he told me. And I would hope that he rekindles that energy. But if it's not there, I mean, the circle would be, we go around 360 again and come back.
Yeah. Well, Bonnie admitted that, he confirmed that he has retired, okay? He's a retiree, as he said, and he believes he has the time and the opportunity. But sticking on your commentary, Ray, because you also made the observations, I should say, in regarding Bunny's challenge now to, improve the public image of the Olympic Committee, and in the context, Ray, of recent interviews with Rondell Bartholomew and Dr. Sean Lambert. You also made mention of that as well.
I don't know if these people listen to anything. That's the second point I'll make to you, because your program is so informative. I mean, Michael, I don't want anybody to tell me that, well, your time done. So I really don't try to. But I mean, where we used to work, I ain't calling him if you want to call him, but where we work, and where I spend most of my time.
Yeah.
I mean, you ask yourself the question, I mean, why didn't we do as Dr. Sean Lambert? Because there is nothing close to what we used to do. I mean, the sports news is 20 days old or a week old, I mean, there's a match playing in Grenada, St. Vincent versus St. Lucia. Between St. Vincent and St. Lucia, there are 8 players from the West Indies Premier Tournament.
Yeah.
Because there's Ambrose is captain in St. Vincent. The fellow who captained the West Indies on the 19th to the World Championship, Milnos or whatever.
Yeah, from St.
And it will
Lucia.
be, right?
You have Pope, all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you, if that can get into the main news, well, that tells you where we are in sports. Look, again, I'm asking the question, couldn't even the association ask somebody, like in my time it was free. You were younger, so you were enthusiastic. I could have called you on Pisces and say, go do that. But I don't know if you can't find them, or we're not interested in finding people to do these things. But we have a lot to do, and a lot must be championed by the Olympic Committee. You know how I started this sports thing, actually? Grenada came last in cricket. Sir Eric Matthew Gary said Grenada cannot come last in cricket. We were beaten by St. Lucia. And we were beaten by everybody. In fact, Sir Eric said that must never happen again. So he called this meeting in York in 1976. I started to work in 75. And he said Grenada must play Shell Shield in those days as a single unit. I mean, everybody understood that was politics. But at the end of it, he said to the cricketers, the leading cricketers in those days, what will make cricket better? Well, I see people need to go to Algrova because Richards and Roberts just came out from there and others. So Kenny Hobson, the late Kenny Hobson and Raphael Crony went there. They say we must have a radio program. So Eric say, we're looking for somebody. Somebody say, a fella there, Ray Roberts, he just be writing stupidness in the Torchlight newspaper. He ain't say foolishness, but he say be writing all kind of things. He say, who is that person? I stand up. Say, where you from, Grenada? He say, good people. Right. So that's how this thing, and Paul Roberts was leading sportscaster in those days. Paul took me under his arm. And that's how I emerged from this thing, you know. Mm-hmm. Because in actual fact, I wanted to be a chef. My uncle was one and my stepfather was one. And I was hoping that I could get in the same thing. But I'm telling you, we need to have people who are going to motivate people. And from a leadership perspective, it can't be just the government alone. The government by itself perhaps don't even see anything. It has to come from the Roy St. John days. Roy was football governor, you could call it. So when he became Minister of Sports, he had this passion for netball and football and cricket. So he took that personal passion and made it a government policy. And I'm not too sure we have had any other Minister of Sports in that league. Mm-hmm. There was another one who I admired, Jacqueline Criff, but she had Keith Joseph with her and Blundell Church. I mean, they were extremely passionate about sports. So I consider these two as the pinnacle. I know some people credit Spaceman too, because Spaceman had good people with him, and the scholarship thing that we have now, he was one of the early pioneers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Spaceman is Adrian Mitchell, so let me just call him right.
Yeah, Adrian Mitchell.
So, if you're listening, Adrian, good afternoon.
Yeah. Ray, and well, your good friend Margaret is, she's there, Margaret Francis. So she was saying, Ray, why don't you and Michael et al. Not start a sports news broadcast? It will just stream online because it ain't going to change at the local station. So don't hold your breath. That's for Margaret.
Margaret, good afternoon. I am happy with what I'm doing. I just came from the beach. And if Michael didn't have this program, I would have been maybe playing tennis.
Well, as I told Rudy at the start, Ray is one of those who has a structure, which I started off with the beach on a Saturday with the beach, and it's tennis or some sports on TV or whatever it is like that. So certainly a structure, but Ray, there's another point, and we'll come back to some of those, but I wanted to get those main points though. Your most recent commentary had to do, and you spoke about the cricket, the ongoing cricket tournament, the Windward Islands cricket tournament, the Super 50 matches as they call it. And this one you said, No Windward Islands cricket Super 50 matches at the stadium. What a shame. And you developed the point, Ray, that a premier tournament as the Windward Islands cricket tournament and the senior tournament, to be precise, and you have a facility as a stadium, and it's not being used for cricket, but being used for some other activity other than cricket?
Well, that is an ongoing debate we had again yesterday, because we understand that you make more money from these Jamaican artists or Trinidadian Calypsonians or wherever they come from. So that is not, I'm not fighting that. Wagiti Bingo, they say, is a big money owner. But I'm saying to ourselves, look, we would know by schedule. I hope the Windward Islands not planning today for tomorrow. But even though they plan today for tomorrow, I would say to them, let's not have it today, have it tomorrow. But you imagine, Ruden, you are in Canada and you are hearing that the best players from the 4 islands are playing. And they're playing in second class facilities that are good enough, but not recommended for the highest level. You will certainly begin to see, well, look, Grenada, what is happening? We have a first class stadium, second to none, and we have people playing somewhere else. I mean, as the case with Dominica Grenada in Progress Park. Whatever rain that fell, the match didn't play. It was abandoned. Queen's Park was dry. So again, I am not battling the Calypso bingo shows that they're having. I am saying if we are going to have the premier cricket tournament, football tournament, whatever tournament, we must reserve the best facility for that particular week and host it there. That would send the impression that, we treat what is local and we treat what is sub-regional as we treat England versus West Indies. I mean, the cricketers, I'm sure, would not think very highly of us because some of them are coming for the first time and they're coming to play in the stadium. So to me, this is simple to comprehend. It has nothing to do with you going to make more money from a reggae show. I'm not battling that. Yes, that may be so. But you imagine the top cricketers from Dominica and Grenada couldn't play on Thursday because the ground was wet or something was wet. That cost money. I don't know the passage from Dominica to Grenada, but I'm sure it's close to $2,000. So these players come and they cannot play. I'm sure about one thing. The lunch would be in the cost around $5,000 because we just did lunches for table tennis players, coaches, 21 of them, and I can tell you the cost was not $1,000 per day. So again, Michael, we have not gotten money for value. So there are things that, to me, we create a mountain, which really is a moon.
Mm-hmm. And you said, Ray, that not just recently we had Grenada hosted the West Indies under 15 tournament, and matches were scheduled for Progress Park last August, and they were severely impacted again because of inadequate covers and things, and then they had to play the match ultimately at the cricket stadium. So logics would have been better you play the matches at the stadium, especially in the context of your senior tournament being played.
Yes, and remember, these players are shortly going to be playing in the premier West Indies tournament where people are selected. Fletcher came yesterday. Fletcher was in St. Andrew there, St. Davis, and I said to him, "You remember a fellow named Tony Harford?" He said, "I can't forget Tony Harford," because as I said to him, your first venture was created by Tony Harford. You were around 13 years old, and you hit 5 sixes in a over in Trinidad. And Tony called me and said, "Boy, we only get this Grenadian boy. This boy just beating up schoolboys." Yeah, they had this tournament in Trinidad. And Tony Harford was the organizer. Cecil Greenwich might have been president of cricket. And then went down there. So he said, "You remember all of those things?" I said, "Good. I'm glad you keep those things in your mind." So again, maybe your colleague Ruden may need to come and do some, because it's necessary that we begin to help our leaders in sports to appreciate that it doesn't drop. Yes, I pray every night. I try not to miss church. Pray morning, pray evening. But the point I'm making, it doesn't drop from heaven just like that. You have to create the nurturing field, the nurseries, for them to grow. I don't know, well, maybe Rudan could help us. I don't know if any athlete or any sports person dropped from heaven, or born from the mother's womb, and next day became a star of any sports. So it has to start some way. And
That is.
we need to inculcate that attitude in all who see they like and want to see sports become, a spectacle in the Grenada psyche.
Mhm. Well, and I was looking at some of the comments, and your good friend, former union colleague and president of the Senate, Chester Humphrey, he did comment and he said, well written and informative indeed. What shows up is the incompetence of the game managers. The question is, who should be made to account?
Well, again, as I said to people, I think the Cricket Association and the Stadium Authority. Because if I was on the Stadium Authority and I hear that, I immediately will call up cricket and say, look, you're not going to embarrass me. Because, listen, you're not embarrassing. You could say, well, let him go and do the thing. But Rudan is in Canada. He's saying Grenada. He's not saying whoever is in president or cricketer. He's saying Grenada. So that is the point I was making to some guys this afternoon, that you think the president of the West Indies cricket board, whenever whoever see this thing or hear about this thing, that they played in Progress Park and the two teams couldn't play because some Jew fell overnight. They can't play. Say, this guy is going to say, well, Grenada is not interested in sports now. So if I were part of the stadium thing, I call up whoever it is and say, look, you're not going to embarrass us. This thing has to be either postponed or something must give way. So that's what I'm saying. Sports, I haven't gotten anything. I wouldn't say anything. Sports table tennis has been my greatest, after God's blessing. There's nothing more important to me than table tennis. I'm not talking about money-wise, but I'm saying in terms of disability, it created the awareness for me. Because when I started to play, so as you say, bring up, go up the board, man. You can go. And the first tournament I played in, except the top four, I beat everybody else in the round robin. And they were picking a team for Dominica. And the number 4 person couldn't go. And I had to go because there was a criteria. And I made the criteria. So as I said to people, that to me, and I remember when I went to St. Lucia, a friend of mine, I called his name Gregory Phillip. When I walked out, he said, that man can't even walk. Where the ass he going? I was so embarrassed. And there were about, I would say, 150 to 200 people there. I beat this man in the first game. He might have given me a couple of points, I think, to show off. Because he was working in those days, he was working in the bank. And so he won the second game, but the third game, but he didn't have a chance. He didn't have a chance. And, as I said to people, anybody my age, if I go St. Lucia, they still remember that. Because for me, it was more than symbolic. It sent a message that you must not look at people and just assume he or she, maybe what you think. So that's why I credit table tennis in that respect, that I have always had a passion for it, because it brought a lot of, it took away things like you don't want to go on the beach with a short pant. Because people say this foot small and this one big. You could say that. It doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't even matter. Nothing like that comes to me, because the reality is you have seen the greater light. So I would hope that we can find a way to start creating among our potential administrators, nursery of administrators, that it is just not, the beauty of being in the company of Kirani James and Victor, who are on the world stage. It is more than that. We must also begin to show the world that behind, after these, here is the nursery. It is rich. A friend of mine from Trinidad, we have a Sunday night Bible study program, and he said to me, Ray, Queen's Royal College and all these big names no longer what they are. He said most of the stadia in Trinidad now, the biggest thing they have, it is a fete. It is a fete. Yeah. Yeah, so Mike, that is what he was telling me, when he looked at Grenada and he said, boy, sometime I watch Grenada doing so well, 100,000 people. We have 1 million plus. He said, we have more stadia than any other country in the Caribbean. And most of them on a weekend is now some kind of party rather than sports itself. And we must try to avoid it, because I'm saying again that delinquency is growing rapidly. I mean, this morning I drive up the road and first thing is see a group of young men drinking beers and all of that. And you want to say to them, um, to these young men, oh gosh, well, at least if you're going to drink, don't 10, 12 of you by the road. I mean, it doesn't look good because it's only 8 o'clock in the morning. That's not what the culture. You would prefer to see a football field. You would prefer to see something more, I don't know, but something that lends itself to a growth of a society.
Yeah.
You don't want your 5-year boy to pass and see that. He may think that is manhood. It's not manhood. Yeah, it is not.
While Ray has getting a call, Roger Augustine is saying the same thing happened with athletics, where meets were put off and cancelled at Kirani James Athletic Stadium because of other activities, especially the field events, with comments like the shot put and javelin damaging the field. Okay, and then Chenny Joseph is saying, I have consistently stated all national and prospective national athletes must be exposed to the best playing and sporting facilities.
Both of them are right. I mean, as I said to you, if I was part of the stadium and I hear about the cricket match, and I must admit to you, I don't think many people knew about the games there because Ali developed.
Yeah, but I was about to. I wanted to ask you that in your commentary, you also talk about the actual promotions of it as well. Eh?
Yeah. Ali stopped to talk to a woman, and in front of the last just playing field, somebody he knew because of his sporting engagement said, "Well," she said, "Well, where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to cricket." He said, "Where's the cricket?" She said, "Inside last address." He said, "Yeah, cricket there. If I knew that she's a vendor, I would have come and vend there." So I wanted a bottle of water, and I had to drive out to go to the nearest shop to buy a bottle of water. I mean, it's only 10 of us inside there. But the whole question everybody was saying, but you mean things so bad in Grenada? Because not everybody goes on Facebook, and let's get it. But, I mean, if you're my age, really, I don't have no economic challenge. I mean, it's basically me alone. But a person who has his own economic activity, you think he had time to go on your Facebook and my Facebook? I mean, you see a little thing. But let's face it, the radio is what I get most of my information from because I'm in the car, the radio is on, I hear there's a hurricane, I hear that gas price going up, and I may seek to follow it up. So that's what I'm saying. We have 13 or 14 or even 20 radio stations. I mean, we can't find one to just every hour give a score, give a highlight. So again, these things, you may say the manager or the program director or the news director should have that wisdom. But I say, if you don't have it, the leadership of cricket should see to it that things like that happen because it is all for the greater good. It is all for the greater good. So again, I'm saying that maybe the challenge we need is the training of our administrators. Because sometimes, I was laughing yesterday because I told you there was a group of elite sports people up there. And they all were sharing experiences. I mean, that you're asking your question, that your best coach, your best athlete going. And a man talking about he has 100 US in his pocket. I mean, what? So he's supposed to kick them upon a water that value 101. So these are things that I'm saying when I sit down and listen. And both fellas, some of them saying me, I hold no office in Olympic, but they say fellas as me. I was a politician, I ran in 2018, but I say I lose. Say, well, you are influenced. Say, I'm not too sure about that. So these are things I think if you people who are in the diaspora can offer Ministry of Health, Ministry of Sports and Youth, that kind of opportunity. Because Look, I'm glad to hear the budget consultation includes sports. That is a good thing. But again, we need to train administrators because, as I just said to you and you, that Michael is in sports, but Michael could perhaps have been just a father whose daughter, or granddaughter, or son, by the way, is becoming the top tennis player. So he walks into the court, not for tennis, but to protect his son or his daughter, to pick them up, drop them home.
Mhm.
And we find him there every evening. We have a fundraiser. He gives us some things. Next thing we say, Michael, we want you to be president.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And
By default.
yeah, that's what it is. Because you are a nice man.
Mhm.
You are one of the people who, after the tennis, I mean, Richie can call and say, drop two people in St. David's, drop two people in Ghana, drop two people in wherever they are. So you become that person who got the job, not because you really want to lead anything,
Yeah.
but you take it because you feel, let me do a little good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's rightly so. Ray, one other thing I want you to comment on as we get ready to wrap up, and because we didn't get the chance to speak about that, so many things had evolved over that period of time. It has to do with the whole issue with Anderson Peters and how you thought it was handled by his handlers, if I may
Well,
use
Mike,
that.
again, it goes back to where your training takes you. Um, Again, as I say to people, I'm not giving him security. When I say security, I'm not going to put police security. But again, as I say, it all leads to who are your your role models. I was
Yeah,
telling a young lady
your
on the
mentor.
beach,
Yeah.
yeah, your mentor, a young lady on the beach this morning, that I was fortunate that around 18, I got to know about pension because where I come from, the family, pension was not a thing. You're young, so you ain't getting old. But the people who I used to be around, I mean, let's take the late Bobby Rahman to start with. I mean, I remember when the revolution come, there were some homes that people sold. They migrated because they were afraid of the revolution. I remember one house in particular. Bobby said to me, "Ray, that is yours. $150,000. You were crazy. I said, but you crazy. When I go done paying for that? No, I would have paid for that 20 times. The point I'm making to you here now is that I think things like that, top athletes, and he's not just top athlete, he's a world-class athlete.
Yeah.
There must be people who accompany them to either be pushy to say, look, this is so and so. Because let's face it, everybody don't know who is who. But you have, I mean, I get into places because there are people who say to me, this is Ray man, this is Ray Roberts man, so and so trade union. So I get in, let's put it this way, in an elite way. And I'm not too sure um, athletes like our friend there, Anderson. I was saddened about the whole thing, but I don't know if it could have been handled any better. Because again, root on the point I'm trying to make here. It's not a 2x4 person who in some event around the Caribbean, but this is
Yeah.
world class. So things like that to me. We know he's going, but maybe the entourage, he must be forced. Yes, he may have his girlfriend. Nobody would interfere with what personal going on, but as a protective group, protective individual, to me, I thought that was something we should have thought about. I think, it is important because it's a public event. And wherever rum is there and rum is abused, and one friend who was on the boat, a sports friend, told me she got caught up because she bought $100 and something in chips. And she thought at the end of the function, she could be refunded, not knowing that this chip thing is when you buy, you keep the chips and you use it. And she told me she started making noise, and she's not a bacchanalist, I must tell you. So she took beers, Monster, which she doesn't drink, all kind of thing to make up $100. So again, maybe somebody like me, who I know what is chip. When you buy chips, you don't go back.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to Rotary things, And I know I go there because I'm a Rotary scholar. So genuinely, I don't go back for whatever chip. Or anyway, I don't go back for it. So again, these are things maybe from your area. You have good friends, Rudan and others. Maybe, the technology is available. These are the things maybe we need to help our administrators to come to terms with. As I said, we're not going to intrude in his business because he has his girlfriend. But this is a public event where two bagay. So maybe there should be people accompanying him that can be very protective. Because I really was displeased with, I know everybody's free to get a lawyer, but I was very displeased with one of the attorneys who I thought was very obnoxious and seemingly performing a kind of American culture that money comes before the human being. Yeah, everybody is free to get a lawyer and to have, what they choose is the way to win. But I thought a lot of that was not good publicity for not just the athlete, but for Grenada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Yeah, well, but it's happy to know that. Well, it's sad ending in that incident. Ended his season. And I'm certain he was looking forward to ending the season on a high with the Diamond League.
Right.
Okay. But at the same time, Ray, I think we want to give kudos to Lyndon Victor and Kirani James, as well as Anderson in terms of back-to-back world champion. Lyndon Victor, back-to-back Commonwealth Games champion in decathlon.
Yeah.
And Kirani still being relevant, as they would say.
More than relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's. I would love to see the Olympic Committee in particular. We need a Kirani Day during the holiday recreation program. That if he comes on vacation, look, I said that to Fletcher yesterday. Everybody is the Spice Man. The Spice Man is here. I say, what are you doing? He's still really watching cricket and he enjoy, whatever he enjoy. My point is, I say, the cricket season is on. Maybe the ministry should be organizing a program that you go to primary schools because they see you on TV.
Yeah, the face of cricket, for Grenada. Yeah.
Right. So you're talking to, well, in my days, it was ABC. Now I think it's great something. But it's all the same. So, because I'll tell you, when I first met Sampat, it's like I met an angel. Because Sampat was scoring goals, he was all of that in local football. When I first met Toto Niwene, I felt, I met some superstar because he was top tennis player in Grenada. He was opening batsman for Grenada. So I happened to meet these people as a young person. I'm beginning to feel that I'm getting to know who's who. So these things, let's not write them up. They are important. They could influence, the generation that is emerging.
Yeah.
When you get to know, as I say, that Kirani story is the greatest story I think.
Yeah, well, Ray, and you raise a point there because, I follow Kirani quite a lot and things like that. So when Kirani is competing in Europe, for example, I follow like the Twitter feeds and Instagram and, the meet organizers and all this. And the sort of reaction you have from the public for Kirani in Lausanne or whatever is different to what probably if Kirani comes to Grenada. I see Fletcher, for example, as another one. When he goes to play cricket in Pakistan and
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan and the UAE and those places. It's big money. But the sort of, feedback he gets, the sort of love he gets and all these sort of things. So it's quite different when he, as you say, he's in Grenada. And probably you, Bobby, just bumps upon him because he appeared at a cricket game in Las Vegas or wherever. But as you say, he should be the face of cricket.
Yeah. It would be Fridays generally is when the schools have a lot more, recreation activities.
Yeah.
So let's schedule it. We know when he's here. So whatever the cost may be, but create that kind of atmosphere, that boys in particular. Because all we see now is some people whining on a stage. I don't know where that's going. Whatever art we're talking about. I warn people. I never thought I would have any gray hair, you know. I start to see a morning, I get up again, my sister to pull them out. Next week, more again, I pull them out. I stop now.
You stop.
That's correct. Because where this thing coming from? So that's what I'm saying. That we have to tell people that you have to prepare for a stage in your life. You don't want us to be continuously arguing. The government at the day must provide for those of us who can. We at this stage of our life must begin to prepare. I paid Clico, I must tell you, for 34 years and I ain't get nothing. And the man who perhaps created the problem get jail. So really and truly, but we must encourage our young people to think about if you get to 50, 60, and even older, do you have some preparation for it? Because you can't save it. You can't put no money in the bank for that. You have to do something that at least can multiply beyond the 1% in the bank. And there are things that we all can do. So I would hope that that this sports consultation, I would hope the priority coming out of that is the training of sports administrators. Because, Michael, if you don't have better sports administrators than you have now, you only would going to talk every week. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not. It all begins with who leads.
Yeah.
If you have leaders who are unaware of what you guys are talking about, I mean, some people have never read that sports policy.
Yeah.
Some people have never read it. Some people have. I know the Olympic Committee emailed it to everybody. I emailed it to my entire table tennis executive and Paralympic executive. But I don't know how many people read it because we never really met a day to have a discussion on it. So I'm saying to us, we need, and I heard both of you exchanges earlier in the discussion, maybe that is the path we need to travel first to create a solid base so administrators can really be up to the game rather than a fella is young, so he become president. He become president, he's young, that's good. But is he really a student of what he's going into? Or is just going in there because the Olympic Committee, the president gets a ticket for he and his wife or his keeper, or whoever you wish to go with, you know. That's not what we want to encourage. We want to encourage people who want to be in sport. Charlie George never traveled as a president of sports. Yeah. One thing you can say about Charlie George, he never traveled. He doesn't want, if they send for the president, he pass it over.
Yeah.
And that is the thing I admired most about it.
Yeah, and I could say that with Charlie because I remember, well, we went to Moscow, I think it was 2015 or something there, and it's only because the president of the Athletic Association required him to be there because they were presenting him with a pin.
Right.
And Charlie was saying, hey, if it wasn't for that, and he specifically asked me to be there, I wasn't going anywhere, and things like that. That's true. But Ray, so finally, as we get ready to wrap now, there was something that was brought to my attention this week. I don't know if you heard about it, whether you while you at the cricket matches noticed it or whatever. It had to do with Junior Murray. Junior Murray was the coach of the Grenada team that toured England a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And somehow he's not a coach of the Grenada team at this Windward Islands tournament. What's wrong? Someone brought that to my attention.
I asked you the same question. I say to you, Raymond Duncan was in that discussion yesterday, in that chat. And I said to him, I thought you had left the country because you have produced the most youth players for Grenada, maybe in the last 10 or 20 years. And I thought by now you would be elevated. In fact, his nursery is the most productive nursery we have. Junior has a nursery too, and the Bitting St. Andrew Cummins, I think, has one. But really and truly, I asked that question too. In fact, Michael, I'll tell you one thing, and I made it point to you yesterday. When I was a member of the Cricket Association, the late Gabriel Henry was the president, and my good friend, who I wouldn't call him, was a superintendent of police, was the treasurer. We sat in a meeting, and the president said to us, he and that person would go to St. Lucia to the board meeting. And I said to the president, with the greatest respect, nobody knows you. Nobody knows the treasurer. or the other person. Um, Michael Finley may be there, or Stanley Hines may be there as a representative, but significant people from St. Lucia and Dominica may be there who are familiar with cricket and want to pick a team. Do you think they'll listen to you, both of you? Said, why you as president don't go and somebody with a cricket background so they can transmit what we are doing as a country and what is happening at the school level. Eventually we voted and it ended up 5-4. And you know who went on that thing? You may not remember anymore, Dwayne Gill. Dwayne Gill went with Gabriel Henry to St. Vincent Tellard cricket meeting. I say that to say the reason why we wanted somebody like Dwayne go is simply because he brought knowledge. As you know, he was captain of the Barbados team that went to England. He was almost a selected player in the Barbados team. And we saw that he had that background that could complement Gabriel's management, because we were telling him, we are administrators, but not everything we must want to go. We must understand it is cricket they're talking about. And therefore, yes, the leader is there, but he must have a technical person that can substantiate issues that two administrators may not understand because they're not on the ground. So I'm saying to you too, I am surprised that Raymond Duncan and Junior aren't more significantly involved in cricket. Yeah, because I spoke to Junior and he said he doesn't want to comment on anything because he doesn't want to get in trouble with anybody. But really and truly, I would tell you that I have a problem with the Cricket Association and the way they go about things, because I remember before I left, I suggested that one of the managers be replaced by a school teacher, simply because we were sending boys who are between 15, under 15 or under 17, one of them. And I said, look, some of them are CXC students, and a teacher would help them being focused on the sports, but also on their books. Because we want, this thing to complement each other. Mm-hmm. I remember some people got vexed with me, and that was my last year there. I mean, I must say to you, they had asked me to serve, so I was not an elected person. After that, I was out and out forevermore. But to me, the Cricket Association needs to think about a broader picture rather than every executive member seemingly is either a manager, a coach, or some kind of travel is, entitlement because of your whole office. And I've seen that in some sports too. That you seem to be there to hold votes, to ensure that votes are there for the next election. Well, as I tell people, I'm like Charlie George. Charlie George has been my role model in terms of that. I don't want no free trip. Anything I go on, if I can't afford, TV is good enough. And maybe that's what I would like to see, if you people can help to nurture administrators. Because, I sent, my friend Roy O'Neill sent me the income distribution for the Cricket World Cup. And I sent it to a couple of the cricketers this morning. Said, imagine, West Indies, even though they may be eliminated in the first round, that's 40,000 US. But just think about them winning. It's 101.6 million US. But that is not all enough. The board pays each player individually, and they're not paying them $10. And then there's a match fee. So if you get into that league, and it's not impossible, all it takes is that you perform. You imagine what that will do to whoever is that individual and the psyche of the nation. So we must not take sports lightly. I went to a Paralympics event in Germany, and they were, where's Grenada? And I got disgusted because they didn't seem to know where Grenada. And I said, Kirani James, and then they said Grenada, all kind of the pronunciation of Grenada. Yeah, because for them, I could have said Calypso, but they don't know nothing about Calypso. Kirani, and my sister lived in San Antonio, and she said around her, they knew about Grenada. But the people couldn't believe when Kirani beat the American guy, and they wanted, and she put up a Grenada flag. She wanted to find out what, do we eat special things? What are some of the things Grenadians, apart from, spices, what else? So we mustn't take it lightly. It's a big thing. The Spiceman brand, I mean, we couldn't wish for a better brand than that. I don't hear they say the hummingbird. I don't hear them call anybody. Oh, what again? The land of many rivers. They call this guy the Spiceman. And that's a brand tourism and Grenadians are familiar with.
Yep, yep.
So do your best, Mike.
Yeah.
I want to compliment you because you seem to be the last straw in terms of keeping us aware of our athletes in the States, our footballers in the States, and our sports people. I know Toro does a little bit too, but you certainly have led the way. And I would hope the Athletic Association and the Olympic Committee can officially task you or whoever it is with that responsibility. Because I'm saying, too, we send people on scholarships, and if you don't post something, we don't seem to know what they're doing. You know? We don't seem to know anything. They leave Grenada and you're gone. So while that may seem not important, to remember we're spending money and we're spending people's money.
Mhm.
So if people see that 2, 3 people climb the ladder, it will serve as a stimulus.
Yeah,
Others.
inspire others. Yeah.
That's correct. So it's not just, the Prime Minister's address at the United Nations. Yes, people like me follow these things. But I mean, when my uncle used to buy newspaper from Trinidad every day, and that's how I fell in love with newspaper. He started to read from the back. I still read any newspaper from the back, the sports page.
Sports page, yeah.
So these things have permanent marks on us. And that's why I would want to see us, again, for the 50th time I repeat it, to do something to create a greater level of maturity among our sports administrators, because that's the weakest link we have. I mean, I tell you the last thing again, last point. If you want to see disinterest in sports, is get the auditor and the financial statement. I just came from a meeting. I won't call their organization. The auditor came. He took more time for him to climb up the steps. And once he presented the report, that was it. Nobody asked a question. Nobody asked a question. So it tells you that nobody read what the auditor and the treasurer read. So there is a need for us to not just say that we need new people in sport. We need new people. I mean, let me call my friend Ambrose's name. I went to credit union meeting Thursday with Ambrose. Ambrose asked about 100 questions until at one point that I asked him. And the questions were stimulating. You could see he studied the report. He studied everything in the report. And he played a transparent role for all of us who were there.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody at the end of the meeting complimented him. Even those who were perhaps saying, please let the meeting go so we can go and eat.
Ray, always stimulated to have you, Ray, and hopefully we'll have you another time, because I know your commentary is coming fast and furious. So always stimulating commentaries, Ray, and we certainly will have you on a future program. I want to thank you once again, Ray.
Much appreciated, and I want to just say to your friend, Ruden is an excellent compliment to your program, and it helps. And I would hope that some of the things that he's talking about, both of you can find a way to transmit whatever is possible to a wider Grenada audience via a training session or some kind of in-house activity that really and truly we can see, well, we can learn and put greater value to what we're doing in Grenada.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Ray.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. So, folks, there you had it from one and only Ray Roberts, live from St. George's, Grenada, and giving us his take on quite a number of issues. And Ruden, always a pleasure having from Ray as we summarize, as we get ready to go. It's a long program. We have been there for the past 2.5 hours, but let's say three, yeah. But what it's all though. Yeah. What's your summary?
It was good. And the one thing, there's so much to say, we'll be here for another hour and we don't have the time, is the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
we have to see that what is the priorities. Sports, when we listen now, sports no longer a priority home. Everything has come before it, so the priorities is very important. The facilities is no longer there to use for to brand Grenada anymore. It's just there for them to make a money, and that's just the bottom line. And that's what we're seeing that's happening now, and it is sad. But the
Yeah.
priority for sports, and then you have those who are in position for a ride,
Mhm.
to
Yep.
travel, to go somewhere. They're not educated. You see, now we want to get on an international level, and we don't want to study how it works on the international level.
Mhm.
You want your athletes to go to school in the US, then you have to know how the system works in the
System, yeah,
United States.
yeah. You have to
So you
understand the
have to
system.
prioritize yourself. You have to
Yeah.
get yourself educated. It's
Mhm.
important to put people in those positions who can study, who can research,
Mhm.
and know when new things is happening, and know when those things are going on in position,
Yeah.
and people in there for the benefit of Grenada's athlete or Grenada's business.
Mhm.
Grenada, that's a better word. Grenada's business. And who is Grenada? The people.
The people, yeah,
You know,
certainly.
and if they are there for that, then we could see better. Change wouldn't come tomorrow, but change will come. Change will come. So like you said, you ask, where do we get the money from? We don't get it from the treasury. So we have to know who is on this kind. So it's a long thing. It was very informative, and I was very pleased to
Yeah.
be honored to be here, to listening. And there's so much, like I said, we can talk about, but we are now seeing firsthand the priority of our where our sport is headed.
Yeah.
If we don't get involved and get something done now, then we lose it.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose it. So to me,
Ver-
and that's one of the main thing I pick up. There is others, but I said the main thing is the priority of sport. What's important?
Mhm.
If my job is in sports, my job is nothing but sports. That's my job.
Mhm.
Not all the sports, I might be in specific, not all, but that is my priority.
Mhm.
But when people want to get involved in everything else and forget their priority, then it become a problem. So
Yeah. Donna Benjamin is saying Ray Duncan should have really bring out his nursery yesterday, and I think she's referring to the cricket out in Las Vegas. Thank you, Donna. And finally, Roger Duncan is saying can't wait to see the day when our newspapers transform and flip their script. Sports to the front and current affairs to the back. You know what's even interesting? The current affairs news to the front page is always stale news. Is it happened on the go during the week? Many online news outfits would have posted it on social media. Well, the, sports do make the front page sometimes, but they make
they
it,
do.
as you say, for the wrong
Yeah.
reason. Some it has to be a controversy, some major controversy for it to be on the front page. Very rare you will find sports being on the front page, even if it's a major issue. Like, for example, there was no reason why the week of Anderson winning the gold medal and Kirani winning silver, that they could have been two big photos of these guys on the front page.
Yeah.
You know,
And like I
um,
said,
yeah.
even like I said to you, even on the next day, the Wednesday, surprised that we couldn't see a parade. This is something that never happened before. Never.
Well,
No other European,
well,
nobody ever
yeah,
done it.
well, the parade aspect too has
I
to
know.
do with
I'm just
the
saying.
yeah. I understand in the
Realize
context,
about something.
Yeah, but
Because
I
he's
like the idea with the parade too in
yeah,
terms of, but it has to do
because
with
his
the
welcome came in on Tuesday when most people
yeah.
playing a
But
job
well,
in a sense, right?
that's why
Yeah,
it all has to do with planning and all these stuff.
planning.
Hey,
Yeah,
like how those from the athletes from Barbados went home together. After the Diamond League, whatever, even though
yeah.
another one was in the Diamond League, etc. But they planned it in such a way that they will come home around the same time and they'll have one big celebration. But again, planning.
And it's the stadium. Like it's we talk about the stadium is the money thing. We can go back to the match girl. The match girl on during the week. Match girl is on a Sunday because they need the stadium so that they could have a show And so a lot of things is just changing because the priority change from what is good to how much money we can get. So it's just what it is. What can you do, right? So
Yeah.
but it was a good show.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Very
I
informative.
appreciate it.
Ray
Yeah.
give us some very good information, and I totally, take a lot from that I can put in my books. I could have it written down, because I do go back in your show and I do write down notes,
Mhm.
and have things down because you know it helps. You putting two and two together, making sure that if you have to say something, you are saying something that direct in line,
Mhm.
not you say a piece here, but you jump over here and here,
Yeah.
something that's direct in line. So
Yeah. I
true.
appreciate, always appreciate. Just to let you know that the next program will be from Texas.
Yeah,
Next program. Yeah.
you're heading to Texas.
We are headed to Texas, as you know, duty calls, and we'll
Yeah.
be there.
Well,
Finally,
hopefully we'll figure next week out because next week is a kind of where
yeah,
we'll start that. I
you
may
know,
or may
yeah,
not be with you, but we'll
yeah.
kind of
But we always figure out how to work.
yeah.
Edwin, good afternoon to Edwin Sam. Once again, Michael Arudian showing your passion. We in the diaspora are willing to assist once we understand that our assistance is appreciated. Certainly, Edwin. I think that is
Absolutely.
always the appeal or the concern by people in the diaspora, just the appreciation, right? They're not asking for anything, you know. The people that come around, they never asking for anything. Well, I should say never. All they're asking for is appreciation, And appreciation could be thank you very much. We appreciate. Karine, thank you. Interesting program, Michael and company. And Glennis is Sister Glennis is also saying great show. And Roger is saying if every private organization can define some dimensions of what makes them a responsible entity, that will be a good start. Corporate Grenada as a stakeholder comes up short in community involvement, and I am not talking carnival. Well,
Carnival. So right. So
yeah,
right.
very so, very so. Very short of community involvement.
Yep.
That is the important thing. And I like how you said it, corporate Grenada as a stakeholder.
Because they want to build.
Duncan and Roger is speaking as a member of corporate Grenada as well,
Yeah.
So
Because they want to build. You want to build something in Grenada, but you want to build it all alone. You don't want to build it with the people. You don't want to take advice. You don't want to do it all alone, and then you do it totally wrong. Right
and,
idea, but totally wrong.
and especially in the Grenada context,
Yeah.
community involvement is very critical. It's very important.
And what you know why? Because all we have is community sports.
Well,
All we
that's
have is
what,
community event. That's all we
right.
have.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have a professional league. You don't have this.
Yeah.
So the community involvement makes a sense.
Yeah.
And as Roger is saying, a good start is for corporate Grenada is to get involved and start with the communities. Because as you say rightly said, that is what we have. When you look at
So yeah,
sport, everything, it's on a community level.
the community level.
So
Yeah.
it's the right place to be
To start.
to be involved, to be active, at the community level. Thank you very much, Rudian. Thank you
Thanks.
to
That was a pleasure.
everyone who
Yeah.
has been there. Sister Glennis Roberts, thank you. Hope to have you around, folks, next week, God's willing, for another program. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weather in Toronto, Rudian.
Yes, we try the best. We don't get
Yeah,
much, but we're taking the last of it.
All right, then. Thank you, and I appreciate. No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, then. So that's Rudian over in Toronto, Canada, and back here in Brooklyn, New York, where it's somewhere in the 50s. Okay, and as I indicated, our program next Saturday, God's willing, will come from Texas. I will let you know exactly where in Texas, but somewhere in Texas. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for being part of the program. And by the way, as information, don't forget there is the budget, the consultation on sports in the budget, and that is for Monday, God's willing. That's Monday the 3rd, Monday coming, 6 o'clock. So if you want to participate, I think there's Zoom information that you can participate in. And then come the 29th of October, Saturday the 29th of October, there is what they call the diaspora consultation regarding the national policy on sports and physical activity. That again, I'm hoping that our good friends in the diaspora can be part of. What I'll try to do, as Ray says, you know, I think that should be part of the whole aspect of it. Get the information out there so that folks can familiarize themselves with the. I think the new what they're circulating now is just a few pages, and it's more, you know, concise, you know. Compare that to the previous with, you know, 30 something pages, 20 something, 30 something pages. This one is more concise, just a few pages. You can just go through like topics and, you know, whatever it is like that. So, and, you know, kind of summarize, but you can get yourself, familiarize yourself with it so that when the time comes for the consultation for the diaspora, you will have an idea of what it is that they want to discuss and make your input. It's an opportunity. I'm saying, hey, you know, we say a lot of things, we criticize, blah, 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 things like that. So we have an opportunity to make an input, and I think we should take advantage of it. That's all I can say. I've been pushing for things like that. And we don't have, I remember the last time when they had the consultation, I flew from New York to Grenada to participate. This time I don't have to, because there is a consultation specifically for the diaspora, and using what we are using these days, new media, you know, and certainly it should be interactive, and I'm looking forward for your participation as well. Okay, thanks very much for being part of the program this week. It has been a sort of long program. We did that specifically because we wanted to accommodate Ray Roberts, and Ray always bring a lot of insights into the program, and certainly it was a pleasure having Ray on the program and, you know, sharing his thoughts with us. So, folks, I want you to enjoy the rest of what's left of the weekend and the week ahead, and look forward to your company come next Saturday, God's willing, for another in our program, Talk Sports, the weekend edition, Saturday Sports Special. I'm Michael Bascom. Have yourself a pleasant afternoon.